The conference room was silent, too silent. Michaela stood by the door, clutching her tablet like a lifeline. Her expression is unreadable. As always, around the massive glass table, executives whispered and shifted in their seats. Sensing the tension, as Daniel Grant, CEO of Grant Enterprises, sat with a storm brewing in his eyes. "Is this a joke?" Daniel's voice was cold. "We lost Agritech's contract because of an error in the proposal timeline." No one answered. My gaze remained fixed on the floor. I hadn't spoken once during the entire meeting. He looked directly at me, eyes like ice. "You were supposed to review the logistics briefing. You've been sitting on your hands doing what?" I said nothing. Daniel slammed his hand on the table, making. Several executives flinched. "Enough! I don't need statues in my office. If you have something to say, say it. Otherwise, get out." I raised my eyes slowly. My face was calm, too calm. "I flagged the scheduling error last week, Mr. Grant. You dismissed it." That made the room go even quieter. Daniel stood up. "And yet, here we are, cleaning up a disaster. Your constant silence is a liability, not an asset. You're inefficient. You're fired." Michaela stared at him, then gave a small nod. Understood. She turned her heels echoing against the marble floor and walked out of the room without a single word of defense. No tears, no pleas. Just that same quiet, unnerving poise. Back in his office, Daniel paced. She always unnerved him. So calm, so silent. He'd never been able to read her, and maybe that's why she irritated him. People who couldn't be read, couldn't be controlled. Bianca, director of client acquisition, stepped in with a stack of folders. "We need signatures on the Trenton Industry files. Oh, and Michaela left a sealed envelope addressed to you." He grabbed the envelope without a word and tossed it onto his desk. He didn't care to open it. That night, after another late meeting with the board and a disappointing call from legal, Daniel collapsed into his leather chair, exhausted. The chaos had only worsened after Michaela left. Isaac had messaged him 3 times asking if Michaela was really gone. For a woman who rarely spoke, her absence was thunderous. He picked up the envelope that was given to him from Bianca. The handwriting was neat and elegant. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Mr. Grant, since I will not be returning, I believe it's important you know that the client schedules for the next quarter were misaligned with your new product launch dates. This will cause multiple conflicts with Trenton Industry and potentially She Corp. I tried to bring this to your attention last Thursday, but you asked not to be interrupted. Additionally, the back-end integration issue with the CRM data interface has not been solved by the suggested patch. It will cause system overloads when running concurrent updates. I recommend speaking with Isaac. He has a more elegant fix in mind. Thank you, Miss Michaela Diallo." Daniel read it twice. He didn't remember half of what she referenced, not really, but the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. He pulled up the Trenton Industry email chain she had emailed him about. The scheduling anomaly, he'd flagged it as not urgent. With a curse under his breath, he grabbed his phone and called Isaac. "Isaac, the CRM data integration, what's the actual issue?" On the other end, Isaac sounded surprised. "Oh, well, it's messy. Michaela was the one who found the conflict weeks ago. She mapped it out and gave me a solution. I was just refining it, but she didn't want credit." "She what?" "She said she didn't need the attention, just wanted it fixed right." Daniel stared at the wall. That woman had practically kept his company together in silence. He hung up, heart pounding with something he didn't want to name. Regret, guilt with pride wounded. He opened the employee database and looked at Michaela's personnel file. Her record was spotless, not a single complaint, late arrival, or missed detail. So why had he been so eager to fire her? The next morning, Bianca entered his office pale. "Daniel, Z Corp just pulled their proposal. They said it felt disorganized." He stood there, stunned. Michaela had predicted it. Daniel walked to the trash bin, still half full, and rummaged through until he found another paper, a small post-it with Michaela's handwriting. "Z Corp follows Agritech's lead. If one pulls out, the other won't be far." She had seen this coming every step. He sat heavily in his chair, the paper clenched in his hand. Suddenly, he wasn't thinking like a CEO. He wasn't thinking about numbers or damage control. He was thinking about her, Michaela Diallo. The woman who never asked for praise, never spoke out of turn, and yet might have been the real reason Grant Enterprises hadn't already collapsed under his blind confidence. Yet he had fired her. The next morning, Daniel realized he needed to find her, but Michaela had vanished. No forwarding address, no personal phone, nothing. Only silence and the knowledge that he might have lost far more than a brilliant assistant. Daniel sat at his desk, the city skyline looming behind him. All he could see was her handwriting. Those neat, almost graceful letters on post-its had exposed something unsettling. Michaela hadn't just been efficient, she had been the quiet engine of his empire. For the first time in years, he couldn't concentrate. Meetings blurred together, emails went unread. Every time someone asked a question or presented a half-baked solution, he found himself wondering what Michaela would have done. His pride told him to move on. She was just an assistant, replaceable. But he couldn't stop thinking about her. He needed to know more. "Isaac," Daniel called as he strolled into the tech wing of the building. "Got a minute?" Isaac turned from his monitor, brows raised. "Sure. What's going on?" Daniel didn't bother with pleasantries. "How long has Michaela been helping with your department?" Isaac leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "A while. She used to ask questions during lunch breaks, stuff about server bottlenecks, data integration. Honestly, I thought she was just curious. Then she started suggesting small tweaks, efficient ones. Most weren't even part of her job." Daniel frowned. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I did, twice. You brushed it off, said it wasn't her responsibility." Daniel let out a bitter laugh. "She wasn't just helping you, was she?" Isaac shook his head. "She helped Nathan in legal last month, redrafted a section in the Omnitech agreement to prevent breach loopholes. She translated the whole thing from legal mumbo-jumbo to business English. Nathan thought someone from the law firm did it." Daniel leaned against the desk, stunned. Isaac added, "You always called her the quiet one." He left Isaac's office with a weight in his chest. He didn't quite understand. Guilt was a foreign emotion. He'd always believed decisions needed to be cold, clean, and immediate. That people either performed or they didn't. Michaela had performed in silence, in shadow, and he had failed to see it. Back in his office, Daniel opened her file again. No emergency contact, no cell phone. Just her work email, now deactivated. He tried calling HR. "Do we have any record of Michaela Diallo's home address?" "One moment, sir. Let me check." After the sound of some clicks and a couple minutes of silence, the HR director responded, "Sorry, sir. It seems she opted out of storing her personal address for safety reasons. All we have is the original application. It lists Hyde Park, but no complete street address." Hyde Park, of course. It makes sense. Michaela had always worn fashionable, modest clothes. She took the train. She never showed off, and now she had disappeared into a neighborhood Daniel had driven through without a second thought. He didn't give up. That afternoon, he left the office, swapped his black Mercedes for something less conspicuous, and drove to Hyde Park. He hadn't been there since college. The streets were vibrant and adorned with multicultural restaurants. Historic brownstones, small shops adorned by tree-lined streets, and brick apartment buildings. He parked and walked, unsure what he was even looking for. It was the scent that stopped him, warm bread and spices. A small bakery on the corner of a side street. A woman stood behind the counter, older with grey-streaked hair and almond-shaped eyes just like Michaela's. He walked in. "Excuse me, do you know someone named Michaela Diallo?" The woman blinked at him. Her face, unreadable. "Who's asking?" "I'm Daniel Grant. We used to work together, but I lost contact with her." Her eyes sharpened instantly. The woman steadied him, then motioned to a chair near the window. "Wait here." Daniel sat, feeling foolish and anxious at the same time. He decided to order a small espresso and a warm almond caramel bun while he waited. 15 minutes passed, then she appeared. Michaela walked in through the front door. She wore a simple t-shirt and fitted jeans that hugged her curves so eloquently. Her curly hair pulled back and tied back in a low bun. She stopped when she saw him. Her expression didn't change. "What are you doing here?" she asked calmly. "I came to talk," he said as he began to stand. "You said enough when you fired me." Daniel exhaled, then took a step closer. "You were right about everything, the contracts, the system issues. She Corp pulled out. You warned me and I didn't listen." "That's not new," she replied flatly. Her words hit deeper than he expected. "I didn't know," he admitted. "How much you were doing, helping departments, preventing disasters. I never saw it." "No," she said. "You chose not to." Silence stretched between them, heavy and charged. "So why are you here?" she asked. Daniel took a deep sigh. 2 reasons. First, I owe you an apology. I'm sorry. Second, to ask if you'd come back. I won't go back to being disrespected and dismissed like an afterthought. Daniel looked into her eyes, steady, intelligent, and unflinching. Then don't come back as an assistant. Come back as a consultant with full autonomy. No one talks over you. No one silences you, especially not me. She tilted her head. "What makes you think I want to come back?" He didn't have an answer, but she also didn't walk away. For the first time in a long time, Daniel realized he wasn't in control. He couldn't explain why this intrigued him. He raised an eyebrow. They were at a standstill after he paid the bill. He wrote his personal cell number on the back of the receipt and handed it to Michaela. "Call me when you come up with the terms that would make you come back. I need you back." He corrected, "The company needs you back." Daniel returned to his penthouse in the heart of River North, but for once the skyline didn't impress him. The floor-to-ceiling windows, the smooth concrete floors, the curated art, it all felt hollow. He poured himself a scotch and stood by the window, replaying Michaela's voice in his head. "You chose not to." He built a multi-million-dollar company on ruthlessness, decisive intuition, and dominance, yet somehow he'd been blind to the most brilliant mind in his building, simply because she didn't clamor for attention. She hadn't agreed to return, not yet. But she hadn't said no either. His mind wandered to the way she looked when she walked into the cafe. How hadn't he noticed before that she looked like smooth chocolate and the curves of her body filled in all the right places? What was wrong with him? Why was she in his thoughts? He downed the scotch in one gulp. Then I went to take a cold shower. The next morning, the office buzzed with an odd tension. People whispered when Daniel walked past. Rumors always moved faster than facts, and everyone knew Michaela had been let go. Many realized how deeply she'd been involved in the company's success. Daniel walked into the main conference room where Isaac and Bianca were waiting with updated projections. "Z Corp is out for good," Bianca said, flipping her tablet toward him. "They cited inconsistencies in communication, missed deadlines, and a lack of strategic direction," Daniel finished. "Michaela warned me this would happen." Isaac exchanged a look with Bianca. Daniel leaned forward. "From now on, we will implement Michaela's organizational system across all departments. No deviations, no shortcuts." Bianca frowned. "But sir, no one knows how to implement her methods. Though they were brilliant, she was the only one who knew how to properly implement them." Daniel looked at Bianca with disdain. Bianca went quiet. Daniel pushed the meeting forward with mechanical focus, but inside he felt irritated. For years, he believed his instincts were infallible, but Michaela had shown him something else. A quiet kind of intelligence, one that didn't demand space but earned it. After work, he took a detour before heading home. The cafe in Hyde Park was quiet, soft R&B music playing in the background. He ordered the same thing as last time. He convinced himself he was back because the food was good. He didn't want to admit to himself that he was hoping to see her again. A few hours passed, she hadn't come. Daniel smiled faintly. Just as he stood to leave, Michaela walked in. Her expression was skeptical. They stared at each other for some time. "You're back again?" she asked. "You never responded to my offer, and I had no way to reach you," he continued. "Do you know how many people have spoken to me about how instrumental you've been in the company?" Michaela has always seen through people. That's why she doesn't speak much. Most don't deserve her words. She just looked at him cautiously. "You deserve more than I gave." "Yes, I do," she responded. "Can we take a walk, please?" Daniel asked. They ended up walking along Lakeshore Drive. The sun was setting over the river, painting it in hues of pinks, oranges, and golds. In the warm, humid air, he noticed she smelled like warm vanilla and coconut. The scent was blurring his thoughts. It was intoxicating. Daniel was the first to break the silence. "I can't run that company without you." She raised a brow. "You did just fine before I came on board." "No," he said quietly. "You made it thrive." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavily charged with things unspoken. Michaela finally said, "I considered your offer. Here are my terms. I will come on as a consultant on a 12-month contract. Consulting means I choose when and how. My salary will be doubled. I will not be your assistant. I don't care what title you come up with, just know I will not be your assistant again. And if at any point in time you verbally disrespect me again, I walk. These terms are non-negotiable. Take it or leave it." Daniel just looked at her, thoroughly impressed. He had to hide his excitement. Keeping his face blank, free of any emotions, he responded, "Okay, I agree. My only caveat is you need to start in 2 days. That'll give me time to get all of the terms sorted with HR." "I'll return on Monday," she said. "Don't expect me to be nice to you either." Daniel smirked. "Wouldn't dream of it." She nodded. Daniel said, "I wasn't sure you'd come back." "I'm coming back because I love the people and the work," she said. They continued their walk. The air was thick with humidity. A thunderstorm was set later that night. As they walked, they talked about their past. He shared with her what inspired him to start the company. She talked about how her family immigrated from Burkina Faso when she was 3 years old. The night stretched long. Before she called for a rideshare, he said, "I don't have a way to contact you. Since we'll be working together again, I think it's only right that I have your number." She gave him a side-eye glance with a barely noticeable smile, then held her hand out. He looked at her hand confused. "Your phone, so I can put my number in it." Blushing, he unlocked his phone and handed it to her. Back at his penthouse, he couldn't understand why his body felt so warm. Whenever he thinks of the scent she was wearing, he becomes engorged. What was she doing to him? That night he couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned as the lightning illuminated the room. Outside the storm was raging. Large raindrops shattered against the glass of the floor-to-ceiling windows in his bedroom. He laid there thinking about Michaela. Before he realized what he was doing, he heard himself moan her name softly in the darkness. Monday came quickly. At 8 a.m., Michaela stepped into Daniel's office like she'd never left. He inhaled deeply. He could smell the warm vanilla and coconut scent. Her scent filled his office. She wore a green pencil skirt with a soft yellow blouse and a fitted blazer, professional and sharp. Her curly hair fell on her shoulders, her eyes calm but unreadable. Michaela walked over to his desk and placed a slim folder down. "I reviewed the Q3 projections. If we don't overhaul client retention, you'll lose 2 more contracts. These are my recommendations." Daniel opened the folder, flipping through graphs, notes, and risk assessments. It was thorough, almost surgical. "You did this without access to our systems?" he asked, surprised. "I remembered most of it." Daniel looked up then and stared at Michaela. Honestly, he was only half paying attention. He couldn't stop looking at her. He thought to himself, have her lips always looked so soft? She met his gaze. A beat passed, then he nodded. "Go ahead and implement these recommendations. Tell Bianca to provide you with whatever resources you'll need." "No need. I have a meeting scheduled at 11 a.m. with the team needed to get this done." Then she got up to leave. After the door closed, Daniel rested his head in his hands. This woman is driving me crazy. Damn. For the rest of the day, Michaela was a quiet storm moving through departments. She spoke little, but when she did, people listened. Bianca stared at her with admiration. Isaac, on the other hand, grinned as he handed Michaela a can of San Pellegrino from the vending machine. Without a word, Daniel watched from afar. He wasn't used to being the observer. Michaela had earned that respect on her own terms. Oddly, he found himself admiring her. At the 11 a.m. meeting, the boardroom lit up for the first real strategy session since Michaela's return. She led the meeting with precision. Halfway through, Amber Devereaux entered late. She smiled all charm and ice. Apologies, I was in a pitch meeting. Michaela didn't flinch. We're discussing retention strategy. You're 15 minutes behind. Catch up. Amber's smile faltered while she sat down. Daniel didn't say a word. He didn't need to. Michaela had taken control with complete legitimacy. Later after the meeting, everyone had filed out. Daniel approached her. "You're not who I thought you were," he said, amusement in his voice. "No," Michaela replied. Their eyes met, and for the first time Daniel realized he was looking at the one person who could undo him completely. How could she be so calm and yet so formidable? He wasn't sure if that terrified him or thrilled him. Daniel invited her to his place on the pretense of continuing to discuss how they could regain both agri-tech and she-industry accounts. Against her better judgment, she agreed. In his car, the city's lights flickering through the tinted windows as they drove through downtown. Michaela had only been back to the office not even 24 hours. He couldn't shake the way she'd looked during that last meeting, calm and in command. He gave her what she asked for, authority, respect, and freedom. What he hadn't expected was her presence, that had become something he depended on more than he realized. As the car pulled up to his building, Daniel stepped out of the driver's side and a valet attendant opened Michaela's door. In the elevator, Daniel felt excitement and nervousness. When they stepped into the penthouse, Michaela looked around and noticed how neutral the decor was. "I see you like things muted, organized, and in its place. You like things you can control," she said without turning around. Daniel smiled, stepping closer. "Habit, I guess." She finally looked up at him. Her expression was unreadable. "Where should we set up?" she said. Daniel pointed to the kitchen island. As Michaela began to unpack her laptop and plug the charger in, she noticed Daniel had rolled up his sleeves and began pulling ingredients out of the refrigerator. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Well, we'll need to eat at some point, won't we?" "You cook?" Her face looked confused. "Well, I haven't burned down the building yet, nor died of food poisoning, so I would say I can." She let out a little laugh. The tip of his ears turned red. A tingling sensation shot through his body. He never heard her laugh before. "Tonight I will not cook as your boss." Michaela crossed her arms. "Then what are you then?" "I am Chef Boy D. Does the lady prefer red or white with her meal?" This time Michaela threw her head back and let out a full, hearty laugh. "Red, please," she replied. Daniel studied her. He noticed she had a small birthmark on her neck, near her collarbone. Seriously, he turned to her. "When you were gone, I started seeing all the places you'd been patching things quietly. You didn't need the spotlight, you just needed someone to notice." Michaela looked at him. "I didn't do it for attention." "I know," he said. "That's what made it worse when you left." She lowered her eyes, her voice softer now. "You fired me because I was too quiet." He nodded, ashamed. "I misjudged you, and I didn't even know what I was losing until you were gone. I want to do this differently now." Her expression didn't change, but he saw something flicker in her eyes. Doubt and hope, now stammering. "Also, he continued, "I can't stop thinking about you, in more ways than I care to admit." His stomach dropped as he spoke his truth. She was quiet for some time. "You have all the women in the office throwing themselves at your feet. You can have any of them. Why me?" He turned back to the stove. With his back now to her, he replied, "I don't know. I can't explain it. I just know I wake up thinking about you. On the nights I barely get any sleep, I see you in my eyelids. It's crazy, I know." He exhaled, almost laughing from the relief of finally saying it aloud. "Are you sure you just don't want to control me?" Michaela leaned forward, folding her hands. Daniel finally turned to look at her again. "I think it's the opposite. It's because I can't control you. Honestly, I don't want to control you. How do you control fire?" Michaela licked her bottom lip. That gesture almost drove him crazy. "I'm only telling you this because it suffocates me, and I had to say it. It needed to be heard, but I am not expecting anything in return." Michaela studied him for a long moment. They strategized over the accounts. discussed how they would schedule in-person meetings with the lead executives of Agritech and She Industry to ensure Grant's commitment to their accounts. "It's getting late, I should get going." At this point, Michaela knew it was best she leave. She wasn't sure if it was the second bottle of wine that had her head swimming or the way he looked at her. He wanted to ask her to stay, but he didn't want her to feel pressured. "Okay, let me take you home. I don't feel comfortable with you on the train this late." In reality, he wanted an excuse to be near her longer. She agreed. He called downstairs to let Valet know he will be going out and to pull his car to the front entrance. She gave him her address so he could put it in the GPS. He noticed the address was near the cafe. "You live near the cafe?" "Yes, because I own the cafe. I opened it a few years ago. All the baked goods are my grandmother's recipes from both parents' sides." "Oh, wow, that is so cool," he said, completely impressed. She told him she lost her grandmothers, and to keep their memories alive, she opened a cafe in their honor. He was moved. "Thank you for sharing that with me, especially since you share very little about yourself." She turned to look out the window, then quietly said, "I don't know why I shared that." Her cheeks felt warm. When they pull up to Michaela's building, Daniel got out and walked her to the door. He notices the building has beautiful, intricate architectural designs. Noticing him looking at the building, Michaela says, "This building is over 100 years old. When I bought it, it required extensive renovations. Now it has become my sanctuary." "You never cease to amaze me. The building is beautiful. Maybe one day I'll cook for you here." Daniel couldn't believe he said that. His mouth moved faster than his brain could filter. "I'll take you up on that offer." Stepping inside the door, Michaela turned and said, "Thank you for a wonderful dinner and the ride home. Let me know when you get home." Then walked in and closed the door. Her words stirred something in his chest. He didn't realize he was smiling the whole way back home. That night he took another cold shower. It didn't help. Thursday morning arrived with an energy the office hadn't felt in months. Daniel stood in the lobby watching Michaela enter in a navy blue suit, heels clicking confidently against the tile. She walked like someone with purpose and no apology. Amber made a face when Michaela walked by her desk to go into her new office. As the marketing director, Amber couldn't understand how Michaela was able to return after being disgraced in a meeting and asked to come back in a higher position. Michaela sent out a meeting request to various department team leads to discuss how to regain Agritech and She Industry as clients. During a presentation with the team members who will work on the project, Amber rudely blurted out, "This seems remedial. I don't see how this would appeal to those executives." Everyone in the room was shocked. Bianca scowled, but Michaela remained cool and calm. "I am open to others' suggestions. If you have something to contribute, Amber, please feel free to provide it to the group, as these details have been acquired through nurtured partnerships with team members from both companies." What Amber did not know was that Michaela had befriended the personal assistants at both Agritech and She Industry, so she had first-hand information on what the executives are looking for. Amber replied, "This isn't how Daniel would want us represented. It comes off as if we are groveling." Michaela gave a curt nod. "I've already sent my directives to the department heads. You guys will see an email from me shortly. We'll start streamlining data ops by the end of day tomorrow. If you have anything more to contribute, Amber, feel free to update us in Teams. We will present this to Daniel and the executives on Friday." Immediately after the meeting, Amber stormed to Daniel's office to complain. "I'm not sure how Michaela is fit to lead this project. She's incompetent," Amber said with agitation in her voice as she stood across Daniel in his office. "Her proposal seems remedial. She will destroy what little connection we have left with Agritech and She Industry." Daniel was trying to control his rage. How dare this numbskull talk about Michaela in such a way? In a controlled, icy tone, he asked, "What makes you think she's incompetent?" "Because she was just an assistant, and now she's portraying us in a submissive position to these clients, like we're groveling." "Is that so?" Daniel asked. Amber thought she had Daniel's full attention, so she started pouting. "I know this isn't the direction you would want us to take. I believe I can create a marketing campaign for the clients that would show their partnership with us would be beneficial." Daniel had enough. "Amber," he said in a cold tone, You were asked to collaborate and provide information needed for this project. Michaela is the lead on this project. If you come into my office again with this nonsense, you will need to refresh your resume. Am I clear? Seated across the desk with the HR director, Bianca officially filed a complaint regarding Amber's outburst and disrespect towards Michaela. Bianca knew what would happen if Michaela was to leave again, and no one wanted to endure Daniel's wrath or worry about job security with clients leaving. Michaela settled into her office in the corner with a view of Lake Michigan. Amber knocked once and stepped in without waiting for permission. So, she said with a tight smile, it seems the data you're requesting is unavailable, so we cannot include those details in the presentation for Friday. Michaela didn't look up. I don't recall inviting you to enter my office. Amber ignored Michaela's comment. She sat across from her and said, Daniel seems to have a thing for charity cases, but don't confuse usefulness with value. I'm sure he only invited you back so you wouldn't accuse him of racism and file a lawsuit. Michaela finally looked up. Are you speaking from experience? It seems like you have experience with racism. I'm sure folks in here would come forward if asked, have they ever encountered hostility from you? Amber's smile cracked. I'm speaking as someone who knows him better than you do. No, Michaela said. You are speaking from someone who needs to be careful. Because if I were to walk into Daniel's office right now, I'm pretty sure it's not going to go the way you think it is. Amber stood abruptly. We'll see how long it takes for you to flop. Handling a job of this magnitude is above your education level. Amber stormed out. Michaela watched the door close behind her. She stopped the recording on her laptop. Amber paced in the ladies' restroom. Her heels clicked sharply against the polished marble floor. She was angry that Michaela had walked back in and started commanding respect and attention. It wasn't just about authority, it was about presence. People liked and listened to Michaela. Directives deferred to her judgment, and even Daniel defended her. Daniel seemed to rely on her more than ever. Amber couldn't stand it. Back at her desk, Amber opened her drawer and pulled out the flash drive she'd kept hidden. It was backup data on Project River Grove, the company's most confidential upcoming product launch. Michaela had been granted access to the project last week, and that gave Amber an idea, an ugly one. That afternoon, Amber intercepted one of Michaela's junior analysts in the hallway. Jason, right? She said smoothly, and he blinked, surprised. Yes. You work with Michaela as a junior analyst, right? I do. Good, listen, she asked me to pass this along to you. It's a revised dataset for Project River Grove. She's been waiting for this dataset. Just make sure it's implemented into the weekly analytics before the exec briefing tomorrow. Jason nodded, taking the flash drive she handed him. Okay, thanks. I'll make sure the analytics are updated. Amber smiled. She figured Michaela wouldn't discover until it was too late. The file contained manipulated data enough to suggest severe performance flaws in Project River Grove's prototype. When the numbers went public during the board's closed-doors review, it would appear as if Michaela had made a critical error. Amber could already see it. Daniel's disappointment, the board's disapproval, the whispers. It was only fair, she told herself. Michaela had walked in like she owned the place. Time to remind her she was a nobody. The next morning, Michaela was reviewing final metrics for her upcoming presentation with the execs when Bianca stormed into her office. Did you see this? She asked, holding her laptop toward Michaela. The screen displayed a spreadsheet highlighting a severe drop in data stability and user satisfaction simulations for Project River Grove. This can't be right, Michaela said. I know that's why I came to you. These weren't the numbers we ran yesterday. Something changed. Michaela pulled up her own backup copy. Sure enough, it didn't match. Her jaw tightened. Michaela called Isaac and put him on speaker. Good morning, Isaac. Can you check who accessed the analytics directory for Project River Grove in the last 24 hours? Isaac typed quickly. Jason Lyons. He uploaded the files from an external source registered to Amber Devereaux's network. Thank you, Isaac. No problem. Is anything wrong? He asked nervously. Not anymore. Bianca and I got this. After hanging up, Michaela closed her eyes for a brief second. That bitch! Exclaimed Bianca. Daniel is in a meeting with the CFO, so no need to bother him with this right now. Thankfully, I have a backup of the correct report, so all is well. The scheduled meeting with the execs went smoothly. The data presented by Michaela was very detailed, and it showed how profitable Project River Grove would be once complete. Daniel was so proud. He stayed after everyone filed out of the conference room. "You were amazing. Great work." The execs were very pleased. I think I saw their mouths begin to water when you pointed out a potential 52% profit margin. He noticed she wasn't smiling. "What's wrong, Michaela? We need to talk. It's important." He noticed the urgency in her voice. He cancelled his meetings for the rest of the day. They walked into his office. Michaela entered with fire in her eyes, a file in one hand, her laptop in the other. She laid both in front of him. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "These are the false analytics Amber planted." She said, "They're falsified. She had one of my junior analysts unknowingly upload them into our system." Daniel didn't even blink. "Are you sure?" Isaac traced the file path. It's her network, her timestamp, her drive. He let out a low growl. His aura became frightening. "Okay, thank you for sharing this with me. I will handle this." His voice was zilch. "And Michaela, good work in catching this. I'm sorry this happened." "I didn't catch it. Bianca caught it. If it weren't for her, I would have looked like a fool in that meeting." Daniel called his new assistant. "Call Isaac, Bianca, and the HR director to come into my office immediately. If they are in a meeting, have them step out of the meeting and report to my office." After 2 hours in Daniel's office, everyone left completely shocked. Daniel picked up the phone, called security, and gave a single order. "Escort Amber Devereaux out of the building effective immediately." Within minutes, security and the HR director were standing at Amber's desk, informing her that she is being terminated immediately. That afternoon, news of Amber's firing rippled through the building. Michaela sat in her office with her 2 junior analysts. They sat watching her with a mix of fear and relief. Jason apologized, looking pale. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know." Michaela put a hand up to stop him. "I know, you were used as a pawn. Next time, don't trust anything that doesn't come directly from me." He nodded quickly. Later, when the floor was quiet, Daniel knocked once before stepping into her office. "I owe you an apology," he said. Michaela didn't respond immediately. He took a deep breath. "Not just for this, but for everything." Her voice was calm but firm. "You don't need to apologize for other people's shortcomings." "I know." He stepped closer. "But I hate to see anyone trying to hurt you." That caught her off guard slightly. She looked at him for a long moment, then said, "Change doesn't happen in declarations. It happens in consistency. And thank you for taking my side." He nodded slowly. "Then I guess I'll have to keep showing up." Michaela allowed herself a small smile. Just as he was about to speak again, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her brow furrowed. "What is it?" Daniel asked. She looked up, her expression unreadable. "That was my store manager. Someone's been asking questions about me at the shop, a man in a suit." Daniel's posture straightened instantly. "Who?" he asked. "I don't know." For the first time, Daniel realized the threats against Michaela weren't only within the walls of Grant Enterprises. Daniel stared at Michaela's phone, the screen still lit with the message. After the sabotage with Amber, he saw the exhaustion on Michaela's face. "Do you want me to send security to the cafe?" he asked, already pulling out his phone. Michaela shook her head, though her jaw was tight. "No, I'll go see what's going on. She won't give strangers any details about me." "Then I'm going with you," she hesitated. "Daniel, you don't have to." "It wasn't an option. I'm coming with you." He didn't wait for permission. Within 30 minutes, they were driving through the city in Daniel's black SUV. Michaela sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the road. Her silence was protective, calculating. When they arrived, the store manager looked up as they approached. "He left but told me to give this to you," she said, handing Michaela an envelope. Daniel stiffened. Did he say who he was? "No, he just left this envelope." Inside was a single sheet of paper with one line printed in bold, "I miss you, I finally found you." Michaela's fingers tightened on the paper. Daniel's voice dropped. "What does that mean?" Michaela looked at him, something dark and vulnerable flashing behind her eyes. It means my former boss found me. He stepped closer. Are you okay? She didn't speak for several seconds. She just stood trembling. Come on, let's go. He put her in the SUV. I need a minute before going back to the office. We're not going to the office. His back tense. He was barely containing his rage. How dare someone frighten his Michaela? We're going to my place. She sat on his couch holding a glass of wine, then started, before Grant Enterprises, I worked in Lombard for a tech startup. Brilliant idea, terrible leadership. The CEO, Christopher Reed, was misusing investor funds, harassing female employees, including myself. I documented everything. I was going to whistleblow and file a formal complaint with the Illinois Labor Board, but I backed out. Why? He somehow caught wind of it and threatened me. I later suspected he downloaded a screen recorder app on my work laptop, she said flatly. He knew where I lived. I was alone and terrified. I think he pulled my details from my employment application. So I quit and left. Daniel's jaw tightened. You did the right thing. No, Michaela said. I did the safe thing, and I've regretted it every day since. He reached out, but stopped himself from touching her hand. So why come looking for you now? He asked. The startup folded, but he felt like I was the one that got away. He acted like he owned the women who worked for him. Daniel stood up, his mind racing. Then we protect you. We notify law enforcement. But Michaela's expression was resolute. If I go public, he'll spin it, tarnish my reputation, or maybe worse. Daniel's voice sharpened. So what? You stay quiet again? No, she said. This time I speak but on my terms. I still have copies of the details I documented. He looked at her, this woman who had been underestimated, silenced, and cornered. He realized he's never admired anyone more. Stay the night, he blurted. She looked at him. You don't have to babysit me. I will be fine at home. I'm not looking to babysit you. I'm asking you to stay because I want you here. She didn't have it in her to argue. The situation with Amber earlier and now Christopher, she was drained. Okay, but I don't have clothes or anything. Leave that up to me. She stepped out of the shower and wrapped a towel around her. When she opened the bathroom door, Daniel was sitting on the edge of the bed. He couldn't help but notice how beautiful she looked. He walked towards her. She could see the desire in his eyes. She didn't look away. He picked her up and placed her on the bathroom counter. Small kisses fell on her neck, starting with the birthmark. Daniel cupped her face in his hands. Do you know how long I've wanted to kiss those lips? I won't even tell you what I imagined about your lips. He kissed her deeply, to the point of them being out of breath. I don't think I am going to be able to control myself, so I will sleep on the couch tonight. His hands tightly gripped her full hips while resting his forehead against her forehead. Good, then don't hold back, she responded. Daniel picked her up, her legs wrapped around his waist. He loosened the towel that was wrapped around her as he walked toward the bed. He gently laid her on the bed and began kissing her fervently now. When Michaela's hands caressed his six-pack abs, he let out a small growl. Look at me, he snapped. Daniel stared deep into her eyes. Say it. I met his eyes and whispered, take me. His kisses trailed down my body. He stopped at my midsection, barely catching my breath. His tongue was on me, in me. I gasped. I let out a sound that was a cross between pleading and desire. Daniel locked my legs with his arms. Then he licked and sucked with devastating precision. My back arched off the bed, my legs trembling, and a cry escaped my throat. I didn't even recognize the sound. He didn't stop. Not when I begged, not when I whimpered, not even when my thighs clamped around his head. My orgasm hit like a storm, violent and fast. I wanted more. He rose from between my legs, when his face came back up to meet mine. Daniel kissed my forehead. The light from the moonlight was softly shining in the room. Maybe it was because the light was gentle. It made his face soft, a stark contrast to his usual hard, precise features. It was mesmerizing. Looking into my eyes, he used his knee to separate my thighs. You can still tell me to stop, but honestly, I won't, he commanded, brushing his tip against me. He lined himself up to me. His thrust was gentle yet determined. It stole the air from my lungs. Inhaling so deep, my lungs could barely contain all the air. I screamed from both pain and pleasure. He filled me completely. He moved each thrust as proof that I was his. His body pounded into mine. My nails dug into his back. Our breaths tangled, my moans, his growls. Daniel leaned down, his forehead pressed to mine. His hips never stopped. He thrust again, harder this time, deeper. My body jerked beneath him, my nails dug deeper into his back. I didn't know if I could take it anymore. Every stroke tore a sound from my throat, pain mingled with pleasure, my body crying out for mercy. "Daniel!" I gasped. My hands moved to his chest, trying to slow him down, trying to breathe. He grabbed my wrists and pinned them above my head with one hand, pressing them into the pillows. "I've wanted you," he growled in my ear. He opened me wider. "Now take it, all of it." My lips parted, a whimper. The pleasure was too much, the pressure, the stretch, the way he filled me so deep. He pinned me in place, his chest heavy against mine, his mouth on my cheek as he panted. I whimpered, torn between begging for more and begging for him to slow down. My body was shaking beneath him, my hands strained under his grip. My thighs trembled around his waist. I could barely breathe. I wasn't sure I could survive. "Daniel, please," I gasped, not even sure what I was pleading for anymore. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark. His voice was almost unrecognizable. "You're mine," he growled. "Take all of me. Every damn inch, and when I'm done, you'll still feel me dripping out of you." He released my wrists only to grip my throat, not choking, not rough, but just enough to own me. My orgasm built again, unbearable. My whole body started to tremble beneath him, pain and pleasure crashing into each. "Daniel, I can't." "Yes, you can," he growled. I broke. The climax ripped through me, body arching. I screamed, muscles locked tight as everything inside me clenched. Daniel didn't stop. He kept pounding into me like a man possessed. His own release was ruthless, punishing strokes until he roared. His whole body tensed, and I felt him spill inside me. He collapsed onto me, his breath ragged in my ear. All I could do was lie there, shaking. His appetite was insatiable. I thought it was over. I hoped it was over. My body couldn't take it anymore. I barely had time to blink before he gripped my hips and flipped me onto my stomach. I turned my head to look at him. He shoved my knees apart, and without mercy he thrust back into me from behind. I screamed into the sheets. Pain laced with pleasure exploded through my core as he filled me again, deeper. My fingers clawed at the sheets, my body, arching, trying to escape the overwhelming intrusion, but he held me. His hand on my lower back, forcing me down, the other gripping my hair and pulling my head back. He growled into my ear, "You don't get to decide when I'm finished, not when you're still dripping, not when it's begging for more." I cried out trembling as he started to move again. I realized something terrifying. I didn't want him to stop, but I could barely catch my breath. "Daniel," I whispered his name. "I don't think I can continue." "Okay, let's take a shower." I agreed, but in reality, I knew he was coaxing me. In the end, the bathroom became a complete mess. The floor was covered in water. Daniel had to carry me back to the bedroom, his voice carrying a hint of laughter. "Okay, I guess I'll let you get some rest." I laid on his chest and yawned. My eyelids became very heavy. "Daniel. You're insane." I couldn't stay awake any longer. Michaela slept deeply, not knowing that after he kissed her on her forehead, he got up and went to the balcony to make a call. Daniel held his phone, gazing in the distant city night sky. He ordered clothes for her to be delivered to his penthouse at 6 a.m. Then he called his friend, Matthias, who was a lead FBI agent. Back at the office the next morning, the energy was electric. After her third cup of coffee, Michaela returned to her usual rhythm, her calm presence grounding the storm. Her movements had shifted to an edge of readiness. Bianca was in awe. That afternoon, the boardroom filled for the debrief of the proposal for agritech and she industry. Michaela stood at the front of the room, sleek and composed. Charts glowed behind her, metrics flowing in real time. "We are back on track for a partnership with both she industry and agritech. We've optimized and scheduled for a phased rollout in Q1 of next year. Risks have been re-evaluated and mitigated." The room nodded in agreement. Even the more skeptical board members were taking notes. Then Amber walked in. Everyone turned and Daniel stood immediately. "You're not authorized to be here." Amber smirked, ignoring him. I'm here as a courtesy. Thought you all should know about your Golden Girls past. She dropped a single manila folder onto the table. Ever heard of Christopher Reed? No? Well, he was Michaela's former CEO, under investigation for fraud. Daniel was angry. What's your point, Amber? She smiled crudely. Ask Michaela how well she knew him. All eyes turned to Michaela. Michaela stepped forward, her voice steady. Yes, it's true. I was his employee. However, I saw everything and documented everything. If you must know, I stayed silent because I was threatened and scared. But I'm not scared anymore. She turned to Daniel. I'm ready to go public. Daniel nodded slowly. You have Grant Enterprises' full support. And as for you, Amber, Grant Enterprise will be filing a lawsuit for privacy breach, slander, and workplace harassment through hate crimes. The color drained from Amber's face and her smirk faltered. That scandal could ruin your company, Daniel. Daniel stood up. Then let it, because integrity means more than image. Daniel's assistant opened the door to allow security to take Amber away. The room was silent then. Someone cleared their throat. It was Isaac. If you don't mind, Michaela, if you could continue. Grant Enterprise has money to make, and the insignificant mosquito has been removed. The boardroom erupted in genuine laughter. Back in Michaela's office, she looked at Daniel, truly looked at him, and for the first time, she didn't see a man trying to control her. She saw protection in his eyes, something tender. At that moment, Michaela knew the fight wasn't over, but for once, she wasn't fighting alone. The story broke 2 weeks later. A headline in bold black font lit up across every major news platform. Whistleblower speaks out. Former employee exposes CEO's corruption in explosive report. Laying together on the couch in Michaela's brownstone, Daniel read every word of the article with a strange sense of pride. She hadn't held back. Michaela named names, provided records, internal memos, emails, even testimonies from other women who had once been too afraid to speak. Daniel turned to face her. Are you hungry? Yes, I am, she whispered. What do you want to eat? He slid his hand under her shirt. She shook her head and chuckled. He hesitated, searching for the words. I care about you deeply, and I don't know how to protect you without making it look like I'm trying to own you. She smiled faintly. Then stop trying to protect me like a CEO protects his investment. Protect me like someone who sees me. I'll try, but please be patient with me. It's going to be hard for me to differentiate the two. Michaela sat staring at her laptop screen. Her inbox overflowed with messages. One stood out from a young woman in New York. Thank you for being brave. Because of you, I spoke up at my company today. I don't know what will happen, but I don't feel alone anymore. Michaela stared at the message until her eyes blurred. She closed the laptop and leaned back. A knock in the doorway brought her back to reality. Daniel was wearing an apron. You look so domesticated. Who would believe you are a powerful CEO? She said, trying to suppress her laughter. He smirked. I need to make sure you're fully nourished, 'cause I want to make sure you don't pass out early. She rolled her eyes and chuckled. At the dinner table, Daniel slid a square velvet box across the table. Relax, it's not a proposal. He said quickly, I'm not that dramatic. She smiled. Then what is it? It's a promise, he said. No matter what happens, just know you won't face it alone. She opened the box. Inside was a beautiful gold necklace with a pendant of the Burkina Faso flag encrusted in gems. Daniel stood up and walked over to her. He placed the necklace around her neck. When he turned to admire the necklace, he saw a couple of tears fall from her eyes. In that quiet moment, Michaela was overwhelmed with emotion. Daniel gently wiped her tears and leaned down to kiss her on her forehead. A year later, Michaela's contract was coming to an end. Daniel asked her to return to Grant Enterprises, not as an assistant, not even as a consultant, but as the new Vice President of Strategic Development. Her nameplate gleamed beside her corner office overlooking Lake Michigan. No one questioned it. Not after what she'd done for the company. Not only did they re-establish the partnership with Agritech and She Industry, she brought in 3 additional multi-million-dollar accounts. This ensured lucrative company profits and end-of-year bonuses for the employees. One evening after a board meeting, he sat in her office. "What would you like for dinner tonight?" He promoted himself to head chef in her kitchen. He enjoyed cooking for her. He especially loved it when she taught him how to cook several African dishes from her childhood. "I don't know, I haven't been hungry much. My stomach has been queasy lately. I think I need to lay off the cafeteria coffee. It's been making me sick." Daniel's heart jumped slightly. He smiled and dared to believe he may be cooking for more than the two of them in the future. This story wasn't about a millionaire saving a quiet woman. It was about a woman whose silence changed a man, who finally learned there was power in silence.